My name is Marcus Reid, and this is the story of how I lost everything and then took it all back with interest. The desert sun in Kandahar hits different when you're carrying 80 pounds of gear and the weight of missing home. I was 6 months into my second deployment, serving as a Marine Corps captain with the 2nd Battalion. Every night I'd call my wife Sarah from the satellite phone, counting down the days until I could hold her again. "I miss you so much, baby," she'd whisper through the static. "The house feels so empty without you." Our house. God, I loved that house. A 3-bedroom craftsman in a quiet neighborhood outside Fort Bragg, North Carolina. We'd bought it 5 years ago, right after I made captain. Sarah had spent months decorating it, turning it into our dream home. White picket fence, blue shutters, a tire swing in the backyard for the kids we were planning to have. I'd put down $80,000 from my savings, money I'd earned from my previous deployments, from missing birthdays and anniversaries and holidays. That house was supposed to be our foundation, our future. "Just 5 more months," I told her during our last call in June. "Then I'm home for good. I'm thinking about transitioning out, maybe using my GI Bill to get my MBA. We can finally start our family." "That sounds perfect, Marcus," she said. But looking back, I should have heard it, that slight hesitation in her voice, like she was reading from a script. 3 days later, everything changed. I was on patrol when Lieutenant Harris pulled me aside. "Captain Reid, you need to call home. It's urgent." My heart stopped. In the military, urgent calls from home mean one of 2 things. Someone died, or someone's about to. I immediately thought of my parents, my sister. I got on the satellite phone with shaking hands and called Sarah. "Marcus, I need to talk to you about something," she said. No greeting, no warmth. Just cold, clinical words. "What's wrong?" "Is everyone okay?" "Everyone's fine. It's about the house." "The house? What about it?" There was a pause, a long, horrible pause that seemed to stretch across the 7,000 miles between us. "I sold it." I actually laughed. "What?" "Sarah, that's not funny." "I'm not joking. I sold the house 2 weeks ago. The closing was yesterday. The world tilted. You... What? That's impossible. That's my house. My name is on the deed." "Actually," she said, and I could hear the smugness creeping into her voice now. "It's our house. We're married, Marcus. Community property state, remember? I had every legal right to sell it." "Why?" I could barely form words. "Why would you do this?" "Because I'm done waiting. I'm done being a military wife, sitting at home while you play hero halfway around the world. Brad and I are moving to Charlotte. We're starting fresh." Brad. The name hit me like a rifle shot. Who the fuck is Brad? Someone who's actually here, Marcus. Someone who doesn't abandon me for months at a time. We've been together since March. I'm sorry, but I've moved on. I was gripping the phone so hard I thought it would shatter. You sold our house. My house, to shack up with some guy you've known for 3 months. The house sold for $340,000. You'll get your half in the divorce. Be grateful. My half? Sarah, I put down the entire down payment. That was my money. And I maintained the house while you were gone. I dealt with the broken water heater, the roof leak, the property taxes. That's worth something, Marcus. See you in court." She hung up. I stood there in the Afghan heat, phone in hand, my entire world collapsing. Around me, my Marines were preparing for patrol, checking weapons, joking around. Life just continuing. while mine had just ended. The next 4 months were the darkest of my life. I had to focus on my mission, on keeping my Marines alive, but every spare moment was torture. I'd lie in my bunk at night, staring at photos of Sarah on my phone, photos I couldn't bring myself to delete. My lawyer back home, a former JAG officer named Patricia Chen, gave me the grim reality. Marcus, North Carolina is an equitable distribution state. Since you were married when you purchased the house, Sarah has a legitimate claim to the proceeds, regardless of who paid the down payment. But I put down $80,000 of my money. Do you have documentation proving that money was separate property? Bank statements showing it came from premarital savings or inheritance? I didn't. I'd been deployed so much that I'd trusted Sarah to handle our finances. All our accounts were joint. She's also claiming she made substantial contributions to the home through sweat equity and bill payments, Patricia continued. Unless you can prove otherwise, you're looking at a 50-50 split, maybe 60-40 in your favor if we're lucky. But it got worse. There's another issue, Patricia said. The house sold for $340,000. After paying off the remaining mortgage of $185,000 in closing costs, the net proceeds were about $140,000. That money is currently sitting in an escrow account pending the divorce settlement. Okay, so I get $70,000 of my original $80,000 down payment back, plus half of the appreciation. That's better than nothing. That's the problem, Marcus. Sarah's lawyer is arguing that you owe her money. I almost dropped the phone. Excuse me? She's claiming that while you were deployed, she paid all household expenses from her salary. Mortgage payments, utilities, maintenance, everything. She's saying you contributed nothing to the household finances during your deployments over the past 5 years. She's calculated that she paid roughly $120,000 into the home during your marriage. She wants reimbursement. The audacity, the sheer breathtaking audacity. See, here's what Sarah forgot to mention. During deployments, married service members receive BAH, Basic Allowance for Housing. That's about $1,800 a month, tax-free, specifically designated to pay for the household expenses. That money had been direct deposited into our joint account every month I was deployed. Sarah had been using my housing allowance to pay the bills, then claiming she'd paid them herself, but proving it was going to be difficult. All our finances were commingled. Sarah had been handling the bills. I'd been too trusting, too focused on my mission. I was being robbed, and there was nothing I could do about it from a combat zone. That's when something inside me shifted. I stopped being heartbroken Marcus and became Captain Marcus Reid, USMC, trained in strategy, intelligence gathering, and tactical planning. If Sarah wanted to play games, I'd play. But I'd play to win. I couldn't leave Afghanistan, but I had resources. I started making calls. First, I contacted my older sister, Nicole, who lived in Virginia. I need you to do something for me, I told her. I need you to become a detective. Nicole, bless her, didn't hesitate. Tell me what you need. I had her pull all our financial records from the past 5 years. Every bank statement, every credit card bill, every receipt she could find. Sarah had been sloppy with financial documents, leaving boxes of old papers in the attic of what used to be our house. Nicole sweet-talked the new homeowners into letting her retrieve family photos from the attic. She left with 3 boxes of documents. Then I had Nicole hire a private investigator to look into Brad. Because here's the thing. You don't just meet someone in March and sell your house to move in with them by June. Something didn't add up. The PI, a retired cop named Dennis Moore, hit pay dirt within a week. Brad Kellerman wasn't just some random guy Sarah had met. He was her co-worker at the insurance company where she worked as a claims adjuster. They'd been working together for 3 years. And according to several of their co-workers who Dennis interviewed, Brad and Sarah had been suspiciously close for at least 18 months. 18 months. I'd been on deployment during that time. Dennis kept digging. He found that Brad was married, still legally married to a woman named Jennifer Kellerman. Brad and Jennifer had separated in February, just 1 month before Sarah claimed she and Brad got together. But it got better. Dennis obtained Brad's bank records through a method he assured me was completely legal, albeit creative. Turns out Brad had been having serious financial troubles. He'd racked up $75,000 in gambling debts, owed back taxes, and was 3 months away from having his car repossessed. Then suddenly in July, right after Sarah sold the house, Brad paid off $60,000 in debts. Cash deposit. Interesting coincidence. Meanwhile, Nicole was going through the financial records with a fine-tooth comb, and she found something beautiful. Receipts. Receipts for furniture Sarah had bought with her money that actually came from our joint account, the account funded by my hazard pay and deployment bonuses. Receipts for a girls' trip to Miami. Population of that trip, Sarah and 2 friends, that cost $3,500, charged to our joint credit card. Receipts for a designer handbag collection that would make a Kardashian jealous. But the real gold mine? I'd forgotten about an allotment I'd set up years ago. 10% of my base pay was automatically transferred to a separate savings account, an old account I'd opened before we got married. That account was in my name only, and I'd never added Sarah to it. That account had $43,000 in it. Sarah didn't know it existed. It wasn't in any of the financial disclosure documents, because technically, I'd forgotten about it too until Nicole started digging. It was hidden in plain sight, accumulating deposits every month like a financial time bomb. I returned to Fort Bragg in November, thinner, harder, and armed with 3 bankers' boxes of evidence. Patricia Chen nearly cried when she saw what I'd brought her. Marcus, this is a prosecuting attorney's wet dream. We spent 2 weeks going through everything, building my case, and then we got even luckier. Brad's wife, Jennifer, wanted to talk. She came to Patricia's office on a cold Tuesday morning, and what she told us changed everything. Brad's been cheating on me for 2 years, Jennifer said, her hands wrapped around a coffee cup for warmth. Multiple affairs. But Sarah was different. He talked about her constantly. He said she was his golden ticket. Golden ticket? Patricia asked. Brad's business was failing. He runs a struggling insurance agency. He was drowning in debt, facing bankruptcy. Then he met Sarah, found out she was married to a deployed Marine, found out about the house. He saw an opportunity. Jennifer leaned forward. He told me he was going to help her realize she deserved better, that he was going to free her from her military prison, and that once they sold her house, they'd have enough money to save his business and start fresh together. Patricia and I exchanged glances. He played her, Jennifer continued. He love-bombed her, made her feel special, convinced her to sell the house quickly before her husband came home. He even had her put $60,000 directly into his business account, told her it was their investment in their future together. "Do you have any proof of this?" Patricia asked. Jennifer smiled sadly and pulled out her phone. "I have text messages. Lots of text messages. Brad was stupid enough to text his buddy about the whole scheme. I saw them on his iPad before he changed his password." She showed us messages that made my blood boil and my lawyer's eyes light up. This military wife is exactly what I needed. She's lonely, vulnerable, and sitting on a $300,000 house. By the time her husband gets back, we'll be set. She's actually going to give me $60K to invest in our future. These desperate housewives are so easy to manipulate. The husband's a Marine, which is perfect. They're gone for months, and the wives get lonely. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. Patricia looked at me. "Marcus, we just went from a property settlement case to potential fraud, emotional manipulation, and undue influence. This changes everything." The divorce hearing was scheduled for January in the Fayetteville courthouse. Sarah walked in confident, wearing a designer suit I'd probably paid for, Brad by her side, like he belonged there. Her confidence lasted exactly 12 minutes. Patricia started gentle, walking through the timeline of the house sale, the financial arrangements. Sarah's lawyer, a slick guy named Robert Thornton, objected repeatedly, clearly thinking this was going to be an easy win. Then Patricia said, "I'd like to enter into Evidence Defense Exhibit A, financial records documenting the misuse of military housing allowance. We showed that Sarah had received $1,800 per month in BAH during my deployments, over $90,000 across 5 years. She'd used that money to pay bills, then claimed she'd paid those same bills from her personal salary." Sarah's face went pale. Defense Exhibit B, documentation of excessive personal expenditures from joint accounts. The Miami trips, the handbags, the $8,000 in furniture she'd bought 3 months before selling the house. Furniture that mysteriously wasn't included in the house sale. Defense Exhibit C, testimony from Jennifer Kellerman. Jennifer took the stand and calmly, methodically described Brad's scheme. She read the text messages aloud. With each word, I watched Sarah shrink in her seat. "Your Honor," Patricia said, "this wasn't just a divorce. This was a calculated fraud perpetrated against a deployed service member. Ms. Reid was manipulated by Mr. Kellerman into selling marital property for his financial benefit, using her emotional vulnerability during her husband's deployment." But Patricia wasn't done. Defense Exhibit D, bank records showing a $60,000 transfer from Ms. Reid to Mr. Kellerman's business account, occurring 2 weeks after the house sale closed. This represents nearly half of the net proceeds from the sale of marital property, transferred to a third party without Captain Reid's knowledge or consent. The judge, a retired Army colonel named Sandra Hayes, was not pleased. Defense Exhibit E, documentation that Captain Reid maintained a separate property account throughout the marriage, containing $43,000 in accumulated savings from premarital employment and deployment bonuses, which was never commingled with marital funds. Sarah's lawyer tried to object, tried to argue, but the evidence was overwhelming. You could see him deflating in real time as he realized his case was built on lies. Judge Hayes called a recess. When we reconvened 30 minutes later, her face was granite. "I've reviewed the evidence presented, and I'm frankly appalled," she began. "Ms. Reid, you exploited your husband's military service, misrepresented your financial contributions, and transferred marital assets to a third party for purposes that clearly weren't in the interest of the marriage." She turned to Sarah's lawyer. "Mr. Thornton, does your client wish to present any evidence refuting these claims?" Thornton whispered frantically with Sarah, who was now crying. "No, Your Honor." "Very well, here's my ruling. The judge awarded me the entire $140,000 in proceeds from the house sale, minus $20,000 awarded to Sarah for legitimate household contributions, the $43,000 in my separate account, confirmed as separate property, $60,000 in damages for the fraudulent transfer to Brad Kellerman, $15,000 in attorney's fees." But she wasn't finished. "Ms. Reid, you are hereby ordered to return the $60,000 you transferred to Mr. Kellerman within 30 days, or face contempt charges. Additionally, I'm forwarding the evidence of potential fraud against a service member to the district attorney's office for a review." Sarah was hyperventilating. Brad, who'd been sitting in the gallery, quietly slipped out of the courtroom. "Captain Reid," the judge said, her tone softening slightly, "thank you for your service. I'm sorry you had to come home to this. The behavior of your soon-to-be ex-wife is a disgrace, particularly given your sacrifice for this country." The gavel came down. The aftermath was swift and brutal, but not for me. Sarah tried to get the money back from Brad. He'd already spent it. His business was failing anyway. The $60,000 had just been a temporary bandage. When Sarah threatened to sue him, he declared bankruptcy. Unable to repay me the $60,000 within 30 days, Sarah was held in contempt of court. The judge ordered her wages garnished, 40% of her salary every paycheck, until the debt was paid. But it got worse for her. The district attorney's office did investigate, and while they didn't pursue criminal charges, the investigation got media attention. Local news ran the story, "Military wife defrauds deployed Marine husband." Sarah's employer, the insurance company where she and Brad worked, fired both of them. Turns out the company had a strict ethics policy, and defrauding a deployed service member violated it spectacularly. Brad's wife, Jennifer, divorced him and took him for everything he had left, which admittedly wasn't much. As for me, I took my $163,000, the house proceeds plus my separate account, minus what Sarah was awarded, and did exactly what I'd planned. I left the Marines after 10 years of honorable service. I enrolled in business school at UNC Chapel Hill using my GI Bill, and I bought a new house, a beautiful 4-bedroom colonial in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I paid cash, my name only on the deed. I'm sitting on my back porch, MBA diploma on the wall behind me, watching my fiancée play with our rescue dog in the backyard. Her name is Amanda. She's a veteran too, Army combat medic. She understands deployment, sacrifice, and the value of loyalty. We're getting married next month. We already have an ironclad prenup, not because we don't trust each other, but because we're both smart enough to protect what we've built. I heard through the grapevine that Sarah finally paid off the $60,000 last month. It took her 3 years of wage garnishment, working 2 jobs, living in a studio apartment, I felt nothing when I heard it. No satisfaction, no vindication. Just nothing. Brad disappeared from Fayetteville. Last I heard, he was in Florida running some kind of timeshare scam. Some people never learn. As for me, I learned the most valuable lesson of my life. Trust, but verify. Love, but protect yourself. And never, ever underestimate a Marine's ability to plan, strategize, and execute a mission. Sarah thought she could sell our house while I was deployed and get away with it. She thought I was too far away, too distracted, too trusting to fight back. She was wrong. Because while she was busy making short-term plans with her con artist boyfriend, I was playing the long game. And in the end, justice wasn't just served cold. It was served with interest, penalties, and a side of wage garnishment. Semper Fi. Remember, the best revenge isn't hot-blooded and emotional. It's cold, calculated, and completely legal. Sarah took my house, but I took back my dignity, my money, and my future, and she paid for every bit of it.